Welcome back to Sunday Morning Juice. My name is Elisa. Today we're here to talk about Deepfake, a Tribeca selected film about a woman in the throes of an existential crisis who tries to optimize her way back to sanity, one lifestyle app at a time. I am here with the cast. Welcome. Thank you guys so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah, we're psyched to be here.
Matt, you said the internet is a place where self-esteem goes to die. What made you want to spend 87 minutes exploring this thesis?
Well, I enjoy watching human suffering and find it funny. I mean, I thought there was a lot of comedic potential there. I have a fascination and horror relationship with social media. And I guess I'm always interested in the disconnect between how people see themselves online, how other people see them online. And if there's one thing this movie's trying to do is trying to draw a big enough wedge between those two realities.
Jane goes from romantic rejection to questioning her basic human worth. Was that always the end point, or is that something that kind of found its way to the floor of the film?
Yeah, I mean that was kind of the always the end point. But Jess and I had long conversations on exactly the slope at which that character was going to change, and not playing it too fast, too quickly, and kind of letting that tension simmer and to like a rolling boil until eventually it kind of all spills out towards the end.
Yeah, I think ultimately it was always going to get to that point because ultimately that is what it is. I mean, we all want to be loved, we all want to be heard, we want to be seen. And that pain or whatever's sort of like underlying that, like not maybe not feeling enough is can be what drives that, that need for the likes or the attention or the need for things to be look a certain way. And so I think Matt has done a really great job of creating that arc for Jane in a really absurd funny way so we can laugh at it, but we can also see ourselves in the story as well, and hopefully leave the theaters without our phones in our face and actually like talking to each other about what we just saw and things that we relate to.
I also think like a lot of, great movies that are really well crafted feature protagonists that have a want throughout the movie that is in direct opposition to the need that they might actually have, that we as the audience can see clearly that they have a need that they don't reconcile with themselves. And so this movie, I think, did a really great job of having a protagonist who really wants that recognition on the internet. And we as the audience are having the realization and experiencing watching her need, which is to be herself and accept who she really is, at direct odds with the thing that she wants the most. And I think that always is the recipe for a really cathartic movie that has, really profound implications about the world that we live in and the way that we live our lives.
Yeah.
Okay.
Beautifully said.
She's a writer too, so okay.
The title Deepfake implies something's fabricated, but the film seems to argue that everyone online is deepfaking. Are there any authentic moments in the film about the characters of the film?
That's a great question. There are. I think there are definitely supposed to be moments that are supposed to be more honest than others. There's arguments to be made that there's always that layer that people put up, sort of a protective shell they have when they have these interactions. But we did definitely try to have some vulnerable moments for these characters as well.
When you're doing a comedy like with Matt, the way that Matt writes, it has to be grounded. I really wanted to like push it to be bigger, like part of me did, but the reality is it needs to be subtle. It needs to be there are these like little shifts that happen and happen and happen, and then it all builds up. For Jane, I feel you do throughout the film get to see her being authentic most of the time. I think for the other characters, like Sophia and Jocelyn's characters, there are moments actually we do in the film get to see those little glimpses of what their core authentic selves are. But for Jane, I feel like throughout the film, you're right there, you're with her,
I totally agree. I was going to say, like, Jane just does a wonderful job of showing the vulnerability and the groundedness of Jane. I think she's one of, the most relatable characters. So I think that for sure you see such honest moments in Jane, and then with her interactions with other characters in the film as well. I love that. Like, I don't know if that was your Elisa's or Matt saying that everyone online is kind of deepfaking. I think I have such an interesting love-hate relationship with social media because even when someone's really, really honest and authentic online, crying on camera, like I respect so much of those people, but still, you're putting on the camera. Still, you might say, okay, this is what I'm gonna say. So it really is easy to deepfake and not really know someone's true intentions and if they really are being authentic. But I think the nice thing about this film is even all these characters, we get to see them outside of social media. We're seeing them in person interact with each other. So even if they are putting on a facade, you see the root. I think that all of us, especially, it's a test of, good actors, you can see the complexity. Maybe they're putting out something, but, there's honesty there because you get to see these characters behind the screens.
And I think there's authenticity in the fact that everyone yearns for connection and longs for meaningful relationships. And I think that the movie, I won't say how it explores or to what extent it explores that, but I do think that that is a truth that we all want community and connection. And in this time period of the world, a lot of what that looks like is performing online and how good of a performance you can put out. So the film definitely explores that as well.
Sophia, Zoe is the best friend you can order. She's simultaneously the most genuine relationship in Jane's life, but their connection is still transactional. If you had to diagnose what Jane is actually looking for outside of the apps, what would it be? And do you think Zoe actually fills that void?
Ooh, I love that.
Mhm.
Like, I think Jess said it earlier, we all just want to be seen and loved. I think Jane really needs someone who sees her for who she is and is a listening ear and can love her for who she is. Like, no one's going to change how she feels, but if someone's just there helping out, listening to you and saying, "Hey, like I see you and you're allowed to feel how you feel and I'm here. So you keep talking and I'm here and we'll get through this together." Like, I think that's really what Jane needs and needed. And that's relatable. I think that's what we all need.
Do you think that Zoe could fill that void for her?
Ooh,
Mm.
I think instantly when you just said it's transactional, even as authentic and genuine and loving as Zoe can be, we all know she's not there because of Jane. She's there because she's getting paid, you
Yeah,
know?
and
Mhm.
friendship is a two-way street, right? And it's not necessarily going both ways in their relationship.
The balance of Zoe's energy versus Jane's energy is a really fun dichotomy to watch throughout the film and really helps with the comedy of it. Jane's so frenetic and like awkward and Zoe is so grounded. Sophia does an incredible job of playing her like really grounded, really sort of like able to calm Jane down and that relationship is so good. I loved watching Sophia's work in it.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Okay, Jocelyn. You play London, the Gen Z image consultant who recommends that Jane change her personality and eventually herself entirely on the internet. How did you find the humanity in a character who's essentially the villain of someone else's self-esteem?
That's a great question. I think that, for the way that I approached it is that this is a girl at her job, right? So we're seeing London. London probably we're seeing the least authentic side of her, maybe out of everyone, but I think that she's working and she's really good at her job and she knows what needs to be done to help Jane. So I think that even though we're not seeing that much of what her softer side may be, we're certainly seeing someone who's trying to help someone and who's trying to do what they said they would do for this person. So I think when I was approaching it, I was thinking, what are the actionable ways that she can help this woman achieve her goals? And how can she put those things into action? How can she start those balls rolling, even though they might not be the best thing for Jane's interior life? They are, she's following through on a promise on the external life that she's looking for.
Jocelyn does an incredible job of playing London in this film. I was just talking to Matt, like we have so much improv that Jocelyn did that I feel like we could do a whole other film. You're so fierce in this role. And her energy, so talking about energies working together. So you've got Zoe, Sophia playing this like loving, grounded, sort of like energy. And then you've got Jocelyn coming in playing London, who's just like a tornado. You know what I mean? A
Cutthroat.
tornado with a mission and like just in like a suit jacket.
There was a lot of softness in the energy between their two characters and in their characters themselves, so it was really easy to come in with a hard edge. You know what I mean?
When was the last time you guys felt your most self online?
So I will say that when we were shooting this movie, like for the last several years of my life, I haven't had social media. I didn't have an Instagram or anything like that. And then I started grad school this year, and when I got to grad school, everyone in my program was like, we've all been talking to each other all summer. We all know who each other is, and no one knows who you are because you don't have an Instagram and you don't have a profile. And so I made an Instagram, and I also think like in this business, it serves as a really great way to network with people because it's like, this kind of entertainment's LinkedIn, more or less. But part of my resistance to it is that it feels impossible for everything to not feel performative when it is online. And so I think now, if I'm able to understand and digest that this is a tool for connection and networking, then it does feel more authentic in a way, rather than it being my identity or my personhood. And that allows me to feel much more like I'm using it for something, specific that isn't fakey.
Yeah. I love that question. The last time I truly felt like myself online, and I'm totally like outing myself here, but I remember I was super late to the Instagram game, and everyone had it, and they always tag people, and they would like hashtag Sophie, and that was like a thing. I had hashtag Sophie when I was like in high school. And I remember, I think it was like around my first year of college, I downloaded Instagram, and I didn't know how it worked, or maybe it was super more like, it was more fun, do whatever you want back then. Now there's kind of a formula. So I just posted everything. I remember I like posted me doing yoga, I posted me singing, I post goofy stuff, and I really felt very authentic and very myself. Cut to now, I genuinely only use Instagram. I mean, I use it for a lot of things, but my personal profile is very much work based. I want casting directors and other people who want to collaborate with me to go on there and see how I'm working. And I definitely like to curate how I present myself for these people who might, give me an opportunity. So although it is myself and I'm authentic, it's not, I'm very careful with what I post. And people, I was even telling them before this, people come up to me all the time like, I see you on Instagram, you're constantly working. Little do they know, like 5 months, I'm super deep, not having any jobs, really like depressed in a black hole as an actor. And it doesn't look like that online at all. So I definitely think the last time I felt very authentic and real was years ago when I didn't have a care in the world in high school, when I thought like, whatever, I don't care, none of this will affect my life. And now I'm super careful, with what I put on the internet.
What kind of occurred to me listening to you ladies was like, everyone sort of decides what it will be for them. You know what I mean? Like there are people that take videos of them crying. There are people that, put their music out there. There are people just use it for industry. And I'm in that sort of profile, is like, I like to use it to showcase my work, what I can do. And so that I can meet people to collaborate with and they can see what I can do. But the thing that popped into my head when you said, when were you the most authentic? I actually just shot a sketch that we're going to be posting this week on my Instagram. And I've been wanting to write more sketches and more comedy for myself. And this was a big step for me because it's very scary for me to create something and put it out there. But ultimately, I feel like that's my most authentic self, is I'm a creator and I think I'm a writer, and I need to like express myself and bring joy to the world and make people laugh.
Yes, Jess. I love that. I'm so inspired, by the way. I'm like, that is so true. When you put up your work, and it is so vulnerable sharing the work that you do, especially when it's like your passion and right. And I love that. That's what I want to do more of. Thank you, Jess.
Yeah, of course. Yes. Well, and that's the thing, like use your voice, express yourself, be honest, be truthful. And like Matt created something that's so fun and so funny and brought us all together where we probably wouldn't have met each other otherwise, or maybe down the line. But, so just because you think it's funny, someone else isn't going to think it's funny, but that's okay. So hopefully this film will elevate people's consciousness and awareness and also bring them some joy,
I recently realized I do this thing where like I'll post a story and then I'll see who saw the story, and then I'll think of it through their eyes, like what they were thinking when they saw it.
I do the same thing. Whenever I get a new follow, like someone's like, "Let me get your Instagram, let me follow you." I'll be like, "Yeah, here it is," and then I low key look and be like, "Okay, what will they see?"
But I would love to get to a point where I don't care.
Yeah,
I don't care what you see or your perspective. Like what that's your business. You know what I mean? Like I've had so many interactions with people recently this last week where they've just been their authentic selves and so lovely. And I'm like, wow, this person's just going through the world and being who they are and clearly don't care what anyone else thinks. And that inspires other people to do the same, you know? I mean, but with social media, it's tough. You'll see in the movie.
So deepfake is a comedy, but
Yeah.
the log line calls this an existential crisis. What's the
Yeah.
one thing you don't want people to laugh off when they leave the film?
Jane's circumstances aren't necessarily raised to the threshold of an actual existential crisis. It's a superficial crisis that she's uh, using as a jumping off point to take actions that she probably would be better served not taking. The story sort of exposes a lot of self-generated misery on Jane's part and handles it a certain way that can be very funny, you know. But of course, if there were actual tragedies befalling Jane, it wouldn't nearly play the same way.
yeah. I think that. I mean, it is a lot of comedy in the film, absurdity in the film, a lot of satire, but something I think is so relatable for all of us and that you see in the film and that Jessica portrays so well is what it is like to feel lonely when you're with a whole bunch of people. Like we all know, even being in New York, Times Square is crowded with people. I don't know how many times I felt my most lonely in Times Square. I really avoid that place, and I love New York, but but I love New York. And even online, you could have so many followers and so many likes. You could be in a room with so many people who call you your friend, who think you know you, but to really feel lonely is such a relatable thing. And although while everyone's laughing at it, I really hope that it is something that's relatable and something that you can know like you're not alone. Many people who look like they have the time of their lives, who maybe look like their Instagram is amazing and you wish they had their life. You have no idea what's going on in their real world and how they feel when they're alone. And how they feel when they're not alone. They can feel super lonely when they're with hundreds of people. So I hope that that does not get laughed off, what it feels to be lonely in today's age.
Beautifully put, Sophia.
Yeah,
Beautifully put.
but along Sophia's line, I hope that people don't lose track of the fact that when you're looking for external validation, there's going to be a bigger hole that you're creating within yourself. And the only way that you can find true connection is to be the truest version of yourself that you can be. Not to be cliche, but I think that's true. Thank you so much.
That's
Thank you.
it. Thank you, Elisa.